So just a couple of weekends ago, I was presenting to some parents who had ninth, 10th, and 11th graders. And one of the things that we talked about actually was around the ways that parents sabotage their teens' college admissions journey. And I know as parents, that's not something we would quickly admit to. And part of it is that when we are sabotaging their process, we don't even know that we're doing it. And when I see it in parents, they mean well. And so what I want to do is just share with you the 5 key ways that parents sabotage their teens' college admissions process. And my hope is that as I'm sharing these with you, you'll recognize if that's you. And usually the first step in making a change is recognizing, what it is you need to change. And so the first one that I talked about was this focus on the colleges. And sometimes, I know that when parents are, for example, taking their teen on a campus visit, they'll say, oh, we're just going to go and visit this, put in the name, highly selective college that, only 1% of the people get into. But it's just that focus on the colleges, the brand names, talking about the colleges, the brand names, that actually undermines the process because it takes the attention away from your teen and just puts it on the colleges and makes it all about the colleges. And so that's the first way that I see. And certainly if you want to undo that, if you see yourself doing that, then it's about really forefronting your teen and thinking about what it is that your teen wants as opposed to this hyper focus on the colleges. The second one that we talked about was keeping up with other parents' college admissions experiences. And we all know that kids are different, and what their experience was like doesn't mean that that's what it's going to be like for your teen. And so when you are so much focused around, keeping up with, so-and-so saying that their kid looked at this college or they like this college or they had this experience with it, that undermines your teen's process. And so I say it all the time to my parents, especially when they're in the process itself, to just avoid listening to those conversations. Because when you're listening to it, you're going to usually, it's human nature, you're going to feel like your teen has some shortcoming. And that's just human nature, that you're going to feel like that. Because sometimes parents are talking about so-and-so got a full ride and they did this and they're the best at whatever. And so that kind of comparison and keeping up with that can undermine your teen's college process. A third one, and I have to look down at my notes for this one, is being unaware of your own mindset and influence. And this one can be kind of hard, but as I've said it so many times before, everything starts with mindset. And so if you as a parent already know where your teen is going to go to college before they've even started applying, if you already know where, which colleges you want them to apply to, and saying, oh, I can see them at X college, that mindset is going to play a role in really shaping what their experience is. And sometimes it's just, your own experience of having gone to college, feeling like, well, if this happened X years ago, this is something that may happen to my teen, or because I didn't look at any colleges, I only applied to one college, and that's your mindset about it, that's going to affect what their process is like. And so really thinking about that and recognizing if that's something that sounds like you, in terms of you could be inadvertently sabotaging their college admissions process. The fourth one is dictating what the college list is going to be. And I see this more and more as students are in junior year. Parents are like, no, they have to get into X college. And that adds a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. And it could be just saying, okay, we're going to go visit this college. That college wasn't on their list, but yet you want them to visit. And so dictating the list in that way is definitely a way to sabotage their college admissions process, and in some cases take the joy out of the process for your teen. This time should be one where you can actually bond as a family, have that time together, and if it's going to be about a lot of disagreements, then it's just not worth it. It's really not worth it. And so just being mindful, if you have taken control over the process and you're dictating what their college list should be. And then the fifth and final one is doing the college admissions process for your teen. That's probably the biggest one that I see. And what it looks like is things like you're researching all the colleges yourself, and you know more about the colleges than your team does. And the most egregious one that I see would be you writing their essays. And I know that sounds crazy, sounds like something you wouldn't do, but I have to share with you this one quick story. So this mom had gotten a hold of her son's login for the Common application. So she was gonna just go in, make a few changes, and be done. It turns out that she logged in as him and ended up signing her name and submitting the application. Now, what do you think happened? Do you think he was admitted? Probably not. So just taking over and doing the process really says to your team that you don't trust them. And in those critical years of high school, when you want to enjoy that time while they're still at home, the last thing you want to do is to steal that process from them. And I know that may sound harsh, but it's really just taking the joy out of it, and it being a lot of disagreements that really aren't worth it. And so those are the 5 key ways that I see every year that parents may be sabotaging their teens' college admissions process. And interestingly enough, or I should say surprisingly enough to me, when I was doing the presentation a couple of weeks ago for these parents, a number of them started to reflect on what has been going on with them in the process, and openly shared that, yes, indeed, they had been sabotaging the process without even knowing it. And so it was just helpful for them to have that mirror and to be able to see it, so that then they could be able to let go and allow the process to unfold and allow their team to own it. And that's really what it's about, because you do want to enjoy these years while they're in high school and be able to help them to develop and grow and have the self-efficacy and the independence that you know is going to serve them for the rest of their lives. And so I look forward to talking with you more about some of the ways that you can support your teen's journey and really their journey into adulthood and thriving.